Hey everyone! Today we're exploring another chilling and disturbing case. If you'd like to support the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay engaged. It really means a lot. I truly appreciate it. Now, take a deep breath and let's dive in. When Kayla was found dead in her apartment, everyone assumed it was suicide. Her Bible was open, a note was left, but 5 years later, a witness came forward, and what she revealed didn't just reopen the case. It exposed a church, it shattered a community, and it uncovered a man of God who may have been hiding the devil inside him. On February 3rd, 2018, 27-year-old Kayla, who was found lifeless in her one-bedroom apartment in Augusta, Georgia. The door was locked from the inside. There was an empty bottle of sleeping pills on the floor. A handwritten note on her nightstand read, "Forgive me, Lord, I am unclean." Her death was ruled a suicide by overdose. No foul play suspected. The case was closed. But Kayla's best friend, Naomi Brooks, never believed it, and she was right not to. In 2023, Naomi walked into the district attorney's office with a voice recording that had been buried in an old Dropbox folder for 5 years. Kayla's voice, quiet and afraid. He said if I left, he'd ruin me, or kill me, or make it look like I did it myself. Investigators reopened the case, and what they uncovered shook the very foundation of Kayla's church, the Restoration of Glory Tabernacle, and its charismatic leader, Pastor Elijah Moore. Kayla was the shining light of her church community. She led the youth choir. She mentored young girls. She never missed a Sunday. After her parents divorced when she was 15, she started seeing Pastor Moore for spiritual counseling. It was supposed to help her heal. Instead, it broke her. By 17, he was already manipulating her. By 20, she was isolated, obedient, and emotionally trapped. The abuse was never physical in public, but it was constant behind closed doors. And no one ever suspected the man preaching on Sunday morning was the same man controlling Kayla's every move. 6 months before Kayla's death, Pastor Moore convinced her to sign a life covenant, an insurance policy worth $250,000, with the church listed as a sole beneficiary. On paper, it looked like a generous donation from a devout member, but in reality it may have been the motive. The policy was processed quietly, and just 2 weeks after her death, the insurance claim was paid out to the Restoration of Glory Tabernacle. No red flags, no questions asked, until Naomi spoke up. The voice recording wasn't the only thing Naomi kept. Before she died, Kayla had told Naomi about a journal filled with names, dates, and direct quotes from Pastor Moore's so-called counseling sessions. That journal disappeared the night Kayla died. But here's the twist. 2 weeks after Pastor Moore's arrest in 2024, Naomi received an anonymous package. Inside it, Kayla's missing journal, and taped to the last page was a church visitor card. On the back of the card, in red ink, one word was written: run. What Naomi didn't know, what no one knew, was that Kayla wasn't the only girl. There were others, and one of them was still alive, terrified, hiding, and ready to talk. Because after all this time, the walls of that church were finally starting to crack, and what was about to crawl out would shock everyone. Her name was Rachel DeWitt. She was 23 years old, a former church pianist, and hadn't spoken to anyone in the congregation since 2019. But when she saw Pastor Moore's mugshot on the news, she broke. Rachel emailed the DA's office the next day. "I was next, and I think Kayla died because she tried to protect me." When investigators met with Rachel, what she revealed filled in the missing puzzle pieces. Rachel said Pastor Moore followed the same method every time. He targeted girls from broken homes. He offered private mentorship and spiritual healing sessions. He used Bible verses like, "Wives, submit to your husbands," twisting scripture into obedience. He isolated them from family. Then he began financial entanglement, including pressuring them to sign over small assets, savings, or in Kayla's case, a life insurance policy. Rachel said she escaped only because Kayla gave her a prepaid bus ticket and told her to run. That was the last time she ever saw Kayla alive. But here's where the case got even darker. When investigators dug into church records, they found something chilling. 3 other young women had also taken out life insurance policies, naming the church as beneficiary. 2 had moved away under mysterious circumstances. 1 had disappeared completely. Every policy had been coordinated by the same church administrator, Margaret Hill, a longtime elder and Moore's most loyal defender. When questioned, Hill insisted it was all legal, but when pressed, she admitted she was told not to ask questions, just file the paperwork. The DA's team now believed this wasn't just spiritual abuse. It was financial trafficking, backed by a religious organization. Rachel described the mental toll. She was made to feel chosen, but also sinful. Punished one moment, praised the next. Moore convinced her that what they shared was a divine covenant, a secret love that God approved of, even if the world wouldn't understand. It wasn't until Kayla handed me a key and whispered, "This place is killing us," that I realized I was in a cult. Rachel still carried the key Kayla gave her. She didn't know what it was for, but Naomi did. Naomi recognized the key immediately. It belonged to a small fireproof lockbox that Kayla kept hidden in her closet. She and investigators returned to Kayla's apartment, now owned by a new tenant, who allowed them to check the crawl space. Inside a dusty vent, behind the insulation, was the box. They pried it open. Inside were photos, receipts, voicemails, copies of insurance paperwork, and a flash drive labeled, "In case I disappear." They played the first recording. Kayla's voice came through, tearful but clear. "If you're hearing this, it means I couldn't escape. It means he won." The recordings contained names, transactions, secret meetings, and one explosive revelation that could turn this case into a federal investigation. But before prosecutors could build a case, Rachel went missing. No note, no signs of a struggle, just a phone left on a park bench, and a single sticky note stuck to the screen. "You should have stayed quiet too." On August 18th, 2024, Rachel DeWitt was scheduled to meet with federal investigators in Atlanta to hand over her full statement and assist with a growing RICO case. She never arrived. Hours later, her phone was found on a park bench in Grant Park. Her apartment showed no signs of forced entry. Her car was still in the garage. Her keys were inside. The only thing missing was Rachel, and on the screen of her phone, taped with a sticky note, was a message: "You should have stayed quiet too." Investigators immediately questioned Margaret Hill, the church elder who helped facilitate the insurance documents. But by this time, she retired, deleted her social media, and moved into a gated religious community out of state. When reached by phone, she insisted Rachel had mental health problems and suggested she likely ran away. But emails pulled from Rachel's laptop told a different story. 2 days before she vanished, Rachel had sent this to a contact at the DA's office. "I'm scared. He's watching me again. I think someone followed me after church. If anything happens to me, it wasn't an accident." A week after Rachel's disappearance, the Restoration of Glory Tabernacle issued a public statement. "We grieve the continued persecution of our church family. We are praying for Rachel's safe return and urge the public not to speculate or spread lies." But Naomi noticed something strange. On the church's website, Kayla Wood's memorial page had been quietly removed, her photo replaced, her name erased, and worse, members of the church began receiving anonymous texts with this message: "Stop talking," or "Next time, it's your daughter." The FBI officially took over the investigation under the Violence Against Women Act and religious exploitation statutes. A task force was formed. Rachel was now listed as a missing person in connection with an ongoing federal case. The files on Kayla's flash drive were entered into evidence. They included secret audio recordings of Pastor Moore confessing divine unions with chosen daughters, voicemail threats, financial records showing tens of thousands in insurance payouts, and a shocking PDF labeled simply, "Sabbath List." A list of 13 names, all women, all young, all listed next to numbers and initials. One of the names, Rachel DeWitt. The number beside her, number 11. 3 weeks into Rachel's disappearance, a park ranger found something near a secluded lake behind the church's original property. It was a woman's shoe and a rosary necklace. DNA confirmed the shoe belonged to Rachel. The area was heavily wooded, overgrown, and just yards away from what used to be the church's baptism site before it was relocated. When forensics teams combed the area, they found something buried. Not a body, a lockbox. Inside, photos of several women, smiling, praying, singing, clipped together with dates and red wax seals. Every photo had the same word written on the back: covenant. Rachel is still missing, but the evidence is mounting. And as agents begin to dig into the rest of the names on the Sabbath list, one thing becomes clear. Kayla wasn't the first. Rachel wasn't the last. And the next girl on that list? She just turned 17. Investigators believe the Sabbath list is a coded ledger, a document used by Pastor Moore and possibly others in the church leadership to track victims. Each name had a number, a date, and a red wax seal, suspected to represent ritualistic abuse or stages of psychological control. Some names were marked with a black X. Kayla's name had two. Naomi, who had once served on the church's youth board, recognized nearly all the names. But the last one, she didn't just recognize it. She knew the girl personally. Her name is Amara Hill, 17 years old, soft-spoken, naive, daughter of Margaret Hill, the same church elder who helped push through Kayla's insurance policy. Amara was being groomed from the inside, and she didn't even know it. She had been homeschooled her entire life, rarely seen outside church, and had just started spiritual mentorship with Pastor Moore 4 months before his arrest. Text messages from Amara's old phone, which Naomi recovered through church teens group chats, revealed disturbing signs. Pastor says I'm his Sabbath star. He gave me a purity bracelet and said it means I belong to God and him. Mama says one day I'll lead the women's circle like Kayla did. Amara had unknowingly stepped into the exact same pattern that led to Kayla's death and Rachel's disappearance. But here's where the case took a chilling turn. During a court-ordered search of Moore's second property, a cabin used for church retreats, authorities found a burned metal trunk in the fireplace. Inside the charred remains was a partially melted notebook. Using forensic ink recovery, investigators restored pieces of the text. The handwriting matched Kayla's. One legible line read, "He keeps us in shifts. We're not allowed to speak. He says silence is sanctification." Another line, "Amara is next. She doesn't know. Her mother offered her." Beneath the cabin was a basement sealed behind a fake panel in the pantry. Inside was a small windowless room. White walls, one twin mattress, a Bible, and dozens of old photos tacked to a corkboard, many of the women from the Sabbath list. Some looked terrified. Some weren't alive anymore. And in the center of the board was a photo of Amara, recent, labeled with a handwritten tag, "Preparation phase." Federal agents now believe Amara was being prepared to replace Rachel. Her mother, Margaret Hill, has disappeared. Her phone last pinged near the state border. And Amara, she hasn't been seen in 6 days. But there's one final name on the Sabbath list, a name that's been redacted in every copy. Even Kayla's flash drive won't decrypt it. Investigators think this name isn't a victim. It might be a partner. The final entry on the Sabbath list was encrypted. Every physical copy had the name blacked out, including Kayla's backup files. But the FBI's cyber forensic unit eventually cracked the flash drive security partition, and what they found sent a chill down every spine in the room. The final name was E. Smith, and beside it a label, Protector, Insider, Silence Enforcer. This wasn't a victim. This was Moore's co-conspirator. In March 2024, investigators retrieved weeks of deleted surveillance footage from the church's security system. Most of it was uneventful, but one clip, captured just 48 hours before Rachel DeWitt's disappearance, showed a vehicle parked outside Rachel's apartment at 2:12 a.m. It wasn't registered to Moore. It was a black Lincoln SUV, registered to a private security firm. The firm's owner, Elliot Smith, a former police officer, a church board member, and the church's head of security. Audio pulled from Kayla's flash drive included one chilling phone recording. She had secretly recorded a conversation between Moore and someone with a deep, commanding voice, a man Moore referred to only as Brother Eli. In the recording, Brother Eli says, "I'll take care of it. You just keep preaching. The flock doesn't ask questions as long as the music keeps playing." Analysts compared the voice to known public sermons from Elliott Smith. It was a match. Smith wasn't just protecting Moore. He was helping silence girls who tried to leave. 3 women from the Sabbath list had moved across state lines. 2 were tracked. 1 had her tires slashed and withdrew from her statement days later. Naomi had even once trusted Elliott. He drove her home from choir practice. He gave her and Kayla protective pepper spray just in case. The irony? He was the one they needed protection from. On October 17, 2024, Elliott Smith was arrested in a federal sting operation while attempting to cross into Alabama. Inside his vehicle were $8,000 in cash, a burner phone with encrypted text to an unnamed contact, a file folder labeled Reclamation, AH. Investigators believe AH stands for Amara Hill. Smith has refused to cooperate. Pastor Moore has gone silent, and Amara is still missing. But there's one final clue. Buried in a transcript from Kayla's original journal is a passage. She writes, "They say if we run, they'll come for us. They say the reclamation is sacred, but I've seen what it really is. It's not a mission. It's a ritual." Federal agents now believe this case isn't just about greed, power, or abuse. It may be something far darker, something ritualistic. And Kayla's death was just the beginning. Federal agents finished decrypting the last folder on Kayla's flash drive. Inside were 3 audio recordings, a scanned page of church doctrine, and a hidden folder labeled Reclamation Ceremony. In one recording, Pastor Moore preaches not from the Bible, but from a private doctrine. The purest sacrifice is silence. The highest offering is surrender, and to be reborn in the Sabbath flame is to be claimed by God. Kayla's voice follows, quiet, steady. This isn't a church. It's a death cult. Investigators discovered that Moore had created a parallel theology hidden from the public congregation. It included covenant girls selected for private spiritual instruction, cycles of purification, involving emotional breakdown and isolation, the reclamation rite, a secretive ritual that coincided with life insurance policy signatures. Each step was meticulously documented. Each girl was expected to comply or disappear. Kayla was marked for reclamation on February 4th, 2018. She died on February 3rd. She ran. She almost made it. Kayla's final 72 hours were reconstructed from phone pings, deleted voicemails, and her journal entries. Friday, February 2nd, she delivers Rachel the prepaid bus ticket. Saturday, February 3 to 9:43 p.m., she leaves Naomi a voicemail saying, "It's done. I packed everything. I'm going to the police in the morning." Saturday, February 3 to 11:12 p.m., Naomi calls back. No answer. Sunday, February 4 to 6:27 a.m., Kayla is found dead. Bible open. Suicide note left. But the forensics team found no pills in her stomach. Toxicology was clean. The note? Not in her handwriting. Cause of death? Smothering. Murder. The flash drive included a chilling video. Time-stamped January 29, 2018. 5 days before Kayla died. In it, Moore speaks to the camera. The soul must be broken before it can be rebuilt. Kayla is close. Reclamation is scheduled. May God receive her with silence. Investigators believe this video was never meant to be found. They now classify Moore's operation as a faith-based coercive trafficking ring with ritualistic patterns. And Kayla was never suicidal. She was silenced. On April 11, 2025, after an anonymous tip from an ex-church member, federal agents raided a remote property tied to Margaret Hill. In the basement, they found Amara Hill, alive, drugged, malnourished. Amara had been missing for 72 days. She was wearing a plain white robe and a tag on her wrist. Stage 2 submission. She couldn't speak at first, but when she finally whispered, she said one word. Kayla. Pastor Elijah Moore is now facing 17 federal charges, including human trafficking, conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, insurance exploitation, sexual abuse of a minor, cult activity under religious cover. Elliot Smith awaits trial. Margaret Hill's whereabouts are still unknown. And Kayla? She was buried without justice. But her flash drive, the evidence she risked everything to preserve, saved countless lives. Naomi visits her grave every year. She leaves behind one item, a key, the one Kayla gave to Rachel, the one that opened the box, the one that unlocked the truth. She died so they could live, and now they know her name. If this story moves you, share it. Speak their names, because silence is how evil survives. What are your thoughts on this case? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay updated with more stories, where each case isn't just about crime, but also offers a lesson for life.